Hey, and welcome to tonight's Table Talk session. Tonight we're doing our virtual book club where we're going over chapter 4. Tonight we're going to be talking about chores and family, and basically just talking about how chores were introduced to my household, and then we're going to have some dialogue and discussions based on prompts that I have put together for tonight. So for tonight, I am going to start by sharing a snippet from the book, or excerpt more so. In chapter 4, one of the funniest parts of the stories is me telling about my dad and him sharing folding parties. So dad called upstairs and he's like, y'all come downstairs, I have a surprise for you. And my siblings and I, we rushed downstairs, and my dad has in his hand a big old bucket or a laundry basket where he's gone and gotten bath cloths, towels, socks, just whatever was somewhere that was not put together. He would bring it downstairs and he's like, we're having a folding party. And so it was humorous after the fact, but as a kid, it wasn't funny because we're like, oh, we got to be doing chores. So that's the takeaway from chapter 4, was just talking about how we had family meetings and our family would get together at the table to talk about responsibilities, what were our parents expecting us to do, and having accountability for us. So that's the takeaway for that. So tonight I'm going to pose the first question, which is, the first question I'm asking is, what characteristics do you maintain from your mother or father, and why? And I'll start by saying characteristics that I maintain from my mother or father are being organized and helping others and keeping my word, all stemming from the way that we were taught how to do our chores. My dad was very much so, you need to be doing A, B, C, and D. And he was coming behind to check to see, what you were doing or if you did what was asked of you. My mom as well. So that's the first question. What characteristics do you maintain from your mother or father, and why? So now I'm going to unmute, and then you can share your input. Or if you can unmute yourself, you can unmute yourself and jump right in. Anyway.
I think for me, some of the characteristics that I took from my mother was keeping my house clean and also fixing the husband's plate first. Those are the two things that I know that I definitely took from my mom. Keeping my house clean because I don't like bugs. And she always said, filth brings roaches and bugs, so keep your house clean and keep dishes out of the sink. And also fixing my husband's plate first. It's something I still do to this day. So those are two characteristics that I got from my mother.
Those are very good. And I actually can attest to that. It's kind of funny because my mom and I and dad have had that conversation as well when we were staying at home. Our rooms sometimes were not as tidy as they would have liked it. We were taught how to clean. So now when they visit us, they're like, well, at least we know we taught you how to clean because your house is clean. So that's a great point. And I love that you were saying to fix your husband's plate. So that's awesome. Anybody else want to add to that?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My mother taught us to do it well. Whatever you do, make sure you do it well. Make sure you enjoy doing what you do. Suppose you're cleaning your kitchen up. Make sure when you finish your kitchen, dry your dishes, put them in the cupboard, and make sure nothing is left out during the night. So that's one thing she taught us to do. Anything you do it well and enjoy doing it while you're doing it. And also have fun while you're doing it, actually. Okay, that's all
Brittany,
I
Joe, that makes total sense because my mom to this day will wash dishes and she'll be like, no, we must put the dishes away. There is no air drying going on over here. We must put these dishes away.
Right. Okay.
So that makes total sense. Okay, thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to share what was your takeaway or characteristic that you maintained from your parents from growing up? Going once, going twice. All right, so we'll move on to the second part. Here's the next question. The next question is, what is something that you wish your parents would have done? So, especially if you are a parent currently, what is something that you wish that your parents would have done and why? And that could be the way that you were brought up. That could have been maybe you didn't like whoopings and you wish your parents didn't whoop you, you know, or maybe your parents didn't whoop you when you wish you would have gotten whoopings, whatever that is, you know. Maybe it's about finances. Maybe you wish your parents would have helped you a little bit better, whatever it is. What's something that you wish your parents would have done? Why? Or maybe why not?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of a thing.
Come on. So okay, well that may speak to that you feel pleased with everything that your parent did, or nobody wants to say it because you're going on the YouTube. It's okay if you don't want to share because you're scared you going on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? You laugh, Monty, don't laugh. I think that's it.
Okay, I'll say one thing. I wish she had taught us. I mean, I know she put the food in front of us. I wish she had taught us to eat more healthy, you know, and not to eat a lot of sweets and candies, and, you know, just eat a lot of junk food. If she had, I mean, she did do a good job, you know, cooking vegetables, but, you know, if we had done a better job of eating healthy, you know, we wouldn't have to worry about nowadays trying to shed all this weight, for one thing. But I'm saying, but she did a good job. She put all, you know, the right food in front of us. But actually, it was our fault, the way we chose to eat what we chose.
That's a good one, Joanne. You wish you would have taught you how to prepare healthier meals. Okay, that's a good perspective. I like that.
Okay.
Anybody else?
For me, I wish that my parents or my parents would have actually did what your family did, which is have family meetings. That was something that we never had. And I wish that we would have had family meetings to kind of make sure everybody knew where everybody was and what everybody's responsibility was in the household. So that's something that I wish that my parents would have done. We had family nights where we would watch like family movie nights and game nights and things like that. But I wish we would have had family meetings. And I think that would have made things a little bit better in our home.
I understand that totally. And I think too, like being a kid, as I shared earlier, it made a difference. Like in the book I share, as a kid, I was like, man, we having another meeting. And over time, I kind of learned like when my dad would come downstairs with this basket, it meant that he had checked the linen closet. He had went and checked the sock drawer, and he had taught us how to fold our socks. My mom and dad both, they taught us how to fold towels. They taught us how to iron and all of these things. So when they would go and check, and these things were not done properly, okay, we need to come back together. Either you weren't listening or you need a reteaching. And I know growing up, I was like, my dad had to have been in the military, and my mom did a very good job with supporting and making sure that we, Lord, my dad is gonna get me. Hey, daddy. My dad and my mom worked together as a team, and their whole, I feel, mission was to ensure that we were self-sufficient when we, you know, left their home, which we all three of us, you know, we're self-sufficient. So I don't know if I'm gonna unmute him. And you have to know him to understand. I don't know. But yeah, Sierra, good point. Anybody else want to share? What is something you wish your parents would have done?
But one more thing I could say that I wish we didn't have a lot of money, right? But if she could taught us how to save and to budget, you know, we probably went a long ways from there. But you know, like I said, we didn't have a whole lot. But what we had in money wise, if we knew how to save it and budget, you know, that would probably been a little more helpful also.
Yes. And, you know, a conversation that we have often, even now being grown and when talking to our parents, that's something that we've talked about the generation, such as our grandmother didn't go to college, you know, and then having Monty in our family be the one to go to college, and just how the progression over time, how grandma did the best she could. My mom and dad gave us the tools. They went to school, went to college. They gave us what they felt was effective to make sure that we were successful. And then even in the book, the purpose of me writing this book was to share my experience with family, with finances, and what I've learned, because it's going to help the next, I would hope, the next generation, and to pass it on. To help the next generation pass it on. So, Joanne, that's a very good point, and that's very much so. I hope everybody took that away from the book. Was the purpose of that is to share it and to help the next generation to see the importance of family, of finances, and finesse. Joanne, you're on it. That's a great principle and a great perspective. Anybody else would like to share something that you wish your mom or dad or your parents would have done?
I could think of something else that I wish that my parents would have done. I wish they would have taught me more about the importance of good credit.
Good credit.
I really wish they would have taught me having good credit and what credit means. I think that I would have really benefited from that had my parents taught me more about what credit is, what having good credit means, and what having bad credit means. So that's something that I wish my parents would have taught me more about at growing up.
That is a great point as well. I think one of the funniest things I think about too, with you speaking on credit, was my mom was talking to me about, going to college. And I don't know, it didn't happen to me, but I guess it has happened to people. But she was sharing, if you go to school and people start sending you credit card mailings, she was like, don't just go and accept all of these credit card mailings that come to you. And I realized personally, as my credit score was going up, or still is going up, people continue to send out mailings like, hey, come get this credit card and that credit card. And so my mom bringing about that awareness, when I did see those mailings coming in, I'm like, my mama told me, don't just be signing up and accepting all of these cards. So I think definitely understanding, or having a better understanding of how credit works, for sure, for the culture, for our community, would be beneficial. So yeah, good point, Sierra. And actually, we have not gotten to the finance section, but can I ask if anybody could share that your parents did share that with you? Is there anybody on here whose parents were able to share about credit or finances? Like Aunt Joanne touched on that. They actually talked to them about that. Anybody? Daniel, you're muted. Hold on. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, off of both of those last comments on Joanne talking about the finance, Sierra talking about credit, that's not really a deep conversation I had before going to college. My freshman year, we had to sit down and talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's when you did go to campus and you got approached by all of the creditors on campus saying, come get this card, come get this card, come get this card. So we had to have a sit down and talk about, no, you don't need to sign up for all of this, because it could negatively affect you if you don't, look at what you're getting, what the interest rate is on it. If you're only paying off the minimum balance, it's going to take you this long to pay it off, that type of thing. So we didn't have that conversation all along. My freshman year of college, we did sit down and have that conversation after I got my first credit card, because I got my first credit card and didn't let her know until after I got it. So that's when we sat down. That's where we sat down and had a conversation about it. Truly in detail and in-depth conversation about how it would affect you in the long run.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that one. I can't wait until we get into the finance section, because I'm going to tell you what, I mean, a lot of this I feel too for our community of the Black culture has been like a learn by experience. I mean, that's what I can say for myself. And in the story, I talk about how I ignored student loans. I mean, it wasn't on my mom and dad to say, hey, you need to make sure you're paying your student loans. I graduated, that was on me. So, I mean, I can't wait till we get to that segment and of the growth and just, trying to get it back together. All right, we're going to keep going. Unless anybody else has to add anything to that part, I'm going to move to the next one. Anybody else want to share about something that you took away from your mom or dad? All right, here's the next question. How has your upbringing contributed to who you are, good or bad? And let me preface this question that everybody does not come from a household that is structured. Everyone does not come from a household that has both parents. Everybody does not come from a mom and a dad household. It could be grandparents, adoption, whatever the case may be. So the good or the bad that contributed could have been traumatic, anything like that, may have alcoholism, could have been drug abuse, whatever. It contributed to making you who you are. What has that been? And go.
Can I talk?
Of course.
Okay. I was going to say that, I come from a different generation than you did. And in our household, we had numerous people. And my mother's main objective was to keep us in school if she didn't do anything else and to keep food on the table. And she always told us, to have a job and to work. That's one thing I took away from her, to work hard. And like I said, we come from a large household with more than one set of families in there. So therefore, it wasn't as structured. And I think I think we learned a lot back in that generation from other people and watching others and seeing what others was doing and just being taught to want to be somebody. And so more or less just how now I'm pretty good about saving money and all that. But at first I wasn't, because when I first got my first job, to me, I thought that was just a lot of money. And I got right many credit cards, and I did get in credit card trouble one time. But I prayed and asked the Lord to help me. And he did it, got me out, and I said, I'll never get in there again.
Uh-huh.
And I have not never gotten in there again, because by that time I was getting old enough to see what good credit scores were, and why you couldn't get anything if you didn't have a good credit score. So I think some of it you learn as you live. Like you say, some come from a big household, some come from two parents, some from one. And I had a hard-working mother, and her objective was just working hard to keep us in school, and that all of us graduated. So I wish I commend her on that, which all of us did. So as different households, some things you just learn as you go, you know.
Totally. I think it's on experience. So I definitely understand and I agree. I think experience is one of the best teachers. And even with all the resources that are out there, some people, even as myself, will still make choices even after hearing the information because you're not quite ready to receive it, you know. And I share that in the story too. When I could have been getting out of debt quicker, I wasn't at a maturation. I wasn't mature enough to understand or receive the help that was trying to be given to me. Even like my father talks about, you know, or mentions life insurance and, you know, different things. My dad is, and my mom too. My mom has definitely dropped nuggets too along the way on things that we should have in place. But I don't think sometimes it hits you until you're at that place of experience or maturation where you can understand this is what they meant. Sometimes you got to hit bottom and be like, okay, this is what they meant by that. So thank you. That was good input. And two, I do think that grandma has done well by, or did well by you all, because you all did graduate and you all are doing very well. So I think she definitely did that. Anybody else would like to share? How has your upbringing contributed to who you are? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Hey.
Go ahead, Chris.
All right. As I guess everybody knows, I was adopted. So I was adopted on I was brought to my parents on day 2 of my life. And I had lived with them forever. But I remember a traumatic time for me was when I found out that I was adopted. It was not them that told me, but a cousin told me. I was 7 years old. I'll never forget it. And she had come to visit with my sister and my brothers, which I didn't understand that either, but she was the one that blurted out that I was adopted. So I'm like, you're telling a story, you know how kids are. Thought she was being mean. And so I remember my mama had to tell me, she said, I wasn't going to tell you until you got older so you could understand. But she had to explain it to me. And then I had to meet my real mother. And her lifestyle was not the lifestyle that I was brought up in. I was brought up in a Christian home. I had both parents. I had my own room. I could, they would take me here, there, wherever we needed to go. And I never had to want for anything. Well, my brothers and my sister, single parent home, moving from house to house, from place to place, so the lifestyles were different. So I had to learn real quick that even though I may have come out of a situation, I don't have to make that situation be my, as my mother would say, a death sentence, or the way I had to go to. Excuse me. Excuse me. So I had to learn real quick. I had to grow up real quick, but it made me who I am today. I feel that I'm stronger for it. I did not use that situation as a crutch, but I grew up to love kids. I always told myself after that I would never let a child feel that they were not loved. I would greet them with love and understanding, and that's what I have been living by, not just kids, but as well as grown people too. You treat people with respect. You earn respect by giving respect. So that's what I got from my parents.
I did not know that about you. So you just shared something new to me. My goodness. But I appreciate you sharing that. So, and tell me if that's too personal. So in your upbringing, did you go between, so I know you said you were introduced to your actual mother. So did you go between homes?
Well, yeah, she wanted me to come back and live with her when I was like 13. I'm like, why would I want to do that? I'm not trying to make, but, as a child thinking that, why would I leave my mom, who I've always known as my mama and my daddy, to go live with you? And I know you, but I don't know you. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
So, but yes, I visited. I visited. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I visited, very much so. She wanted me to call her mom, but you still feel awkward in a sense, but it was still a experience to know that, well, why, then after a while, when I got 15, 16, I was like, wow, well, I got two moms. So, I felt lucky to have two moms, but they let me choose how I wanted to proceed. So when I was 15, the adoption papers were done, and I was adopted by my mom and my dad.
I appreciate you sharing that for the sake of transparency. That's a story, Chris.
It is a story.
Wow. Does anybody else want to add to how your upbringing has contributed to who you are, good or bad?
I think that I can attest to what the sister was just talking about, because I too was adopted when I was 8 years old. And all of my brothers, we all got adopted by the same parents.
Wow.
And my mother, her goal was to always, number one, keep us in school, and always to keep us in the church. And by her putting so much emphasis on salvation, even when I left the church at the age of 18 and I didn't get back until I was 30, even though those years that I was gone, I still had that importance of salvation instilled in me and God's word instilled in me. And I couldn't get it out of me no matter how hard I may have been doing whatever, the word of God was still in me. And that's something that my mother instilled in me. And it helped me on my path back to the church and back into the ark of safety. So that part of my upbringing has really attributed to who I am, the woman that I am today.
That is awesome. I am learning some stuff tonight. I didn't realize that you were adopted as well, but I'm glad that both of you all seem to have been adopted into wonderful families. I mean, and that's like too, like if you would say if you contributed goodness, I would say both of you contributed or received goodness from those that you were adopted from, and that's a blessing in itself. So thank you both for being transparent and sharing that. I just learned something new about both of you all. That's really cool. I'm going to put my mama on the spot. Where she left? What the world? My dad is telling her to come back. I can read his lips. So I'll start with my dad then.
Okay.
All right, Daddy, I'll start with you. Tell me, what did your upbringing contribute to who you are?
Okay. Am I live there?
Yes, we hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay. My upbringing was probably a little different from most of you all who are listening tonight. I grew up in a very loving home, but a very strict environment. And that's probably where some of your upbringing came from. I was a former educator and from a large family of 11. My mother was very, very strict. My father is deceased. He passed when I was really young. But my mother, with all the kids, I think she had to make all of us toe a tough line, and that sort of carried over. And I think because of that, you're a product of your environment. So as I had that tough love syndrome, I think I kind of brought some of that to my family as well. But I think within that night, we had a very good balance. She would love on the kids a lot, and then I would discipline them a lot, and then I would love on them too.
Nurture and nature.
I know that's different.
but with the two of us, we had a unique approach, and I love my kids as I always have, and every parent does. But I do believe in a lot of structure and a lot of discipline. As you may know, I'm a former educator and a former coach. Time out. So as a former educator and former coach, discipline was one of my things. So that's what I got to say about that. Okay.
Thank you for sharing. All right, I'm gonna go down to the next one. All right, lady, it's on you. Mama, unmute yourself.
I think it's a total difference for me because
Who are you on the side that is echoing, Mama?
Your daddy. He wanted his own computer. So I am the youngest of 9, and I'm probably the brattiest of all of them, but I grew up to be the one that's now taking care of everybody else. So growing up, having my way, because when I was pretty much the only one home. So I pretty much, ate what I wanted. My mama, she catered to me. And then my older siblings, they would buy for me and so forth and so on. So that part, I grew up as the youngest one, all of everything being given to me. But growing up now as the older one, the youngest one taking care of, everybody else, I guess, because I'm most healthiest as far as we know. So I try to give back because that's what my mother taught us to do. As far as this household, Nathan, yeah, we call him the militant midget, but you know, he did it in a good way. It was all good. He was the structure. I was the one that would pretty much let him not have the way because I could give the eye, and they understood what that meant. That's enough. You toting that line. So and like I tell him, I didn't come up under that structure of that his mother, and she was a nice person, you know, even though she was stern, but you know, she was a very loving person. But we are two different people. We came from two different backgrounds, and so I think that balance is what helped us, you know, with you guys.
Okay, so I want to share though, my dad mentioned that his father passed away when he was younger. Let's talk about the dynamics of that, because Mama grew up majority, whatever that word is supposed to be. Her vast majority was still under her mom. Dad, your upbringing mostly was under your mom, growing up with basically single parents. But then Grandma had, you know, how many children? 9. Daddy, how many did Grandma have? 11. So thinking about how his mother was more strict, whereas how would you describe Grandma being with you all, with the 9 of y'all?
Yeah, I did like I wanted to. My mama, you know.
But y'all turned out very well. So I'm saying the dynamics in that.
Yes, I didn't have a lot of do's, don'ts, but she kept us in church. And so by me being in the church at an early age, I really was not that wild. And so my that was good for me. And so I guess that's what helped me, you know, because I came to the church at an early age. And so, you know, I didn't walk for a whole lot. I was just pretty much home. I didn't run the streets. So, you know, that was me. Nathan, on the other hand, you know.
You speak for yourself.
Oh, okay, I'm speaking for myself. Okay, all right. But that's the difference between the two. You know, he had more street life than I had. So, you know, I'm more settled in that aspect.
In my defense, I really didn't have more street life. I was a church.
She muted him. Oh my Lord. She's crazy.
But God.
She muted you.
Devon, can I say this about your parents?
Go ahead, Fritz.
Everybody from my in-laws side of the family. When I came to this family, I could see the love and the support from each and every one of them. You could tell that that family value was instilled in them. I used to look up to Aunt Annette even when we were in high school. You know, I was like, wow, you know, I like her because she does such. But you could see when I came into the family, you could see the love, you could see the respect, you could see the honor, you could see the church, you could see everything in that family. Now, may not have a whole lot of material things, but the one thing I can say that I saw was the love. So, you know, big families, some big families don't do what you do. I've talked to different people at work, and I was like, well, you know, we have birthdays on every second Sunday. They're like, y'all do birthdays? Yeah. I mean, to me, that's just normal. But Grandma was always that one. She didn't say much, but that look could go through you. If you did something wrong, you can ask Dee Dee and Sean. They would tell you real quick. Grandma don't play. Annette don't play. But they respected you all. Now, Sean and Dee Dee would love to go to Aunt Annette and Uncle Nate's house. That's what they wanted to do when they were younger, because they felt the love from them. Felt the felt the structure from them. Not saying that we didn't give them structure, but when they know, when they leave us, they're supposed to do this, 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 and this. They got the same thing they got here, they got with Aunt Annette. The same thing they got here, they got with Aunt Thelma. The same thing they got here, they got with Monica. The same thing they got here, they got with Aunt Joanne. They would always tell us that Aunt Joanne would always pinch them in church if they acted up, and that pinch did not play. So, you know, it's great to see that family, that kind of family structure in this day and time. That's what I'm trying to say, because you don't see that with everybody's family. In this day and time, it's great to see that families stick together like that.
And Chris, out of like, if you like the first couple of chapters, although they were very, very short, that is like what I was trying to share and depict, that my family, I'm talking about close knit to extended, are just rare. I mean, you just don't find people that just can come together, support, they can get together every day, you know what I'm saying? And they don't mind it. They like each other, you know. And I do believe that God being the center of that, and being the love that is, you know, what keeps them spiritual. And my mom has made a good point of that, that although education might not have been as far as in other families, spirituality though, or spiritually wise, they have God, you know, within the family, and God has blessed them greatly, I would say. So it's a blessing. Priscilla, you hit it on the head. And I do remember our household being that house where my cousin, we coming to Aunt Annette and Uncle Nate's house, you know, having
Y'all were the
sleepovers.
Kool-Aid family.
Yes.
Kool-Aid
Everybody
family.
wanted to come through and spend the night, and my dad taking everybody fishing or going to the beach, and my mom, you know, making sure she cooked. So definitely, so that's really what I wanted to depict and share in the book. What you say, Daddy?
I said, Mama used to put that stove to use.
But one thing about Nathaniel, he wanted always to expose you guys to everything that was out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think that's one of the best aspects. And other kids saw the exposure, and that's why everybody wanted to come, because there was nothing at nighttime. It's 12 o'clock. We outside playing hide and go seek in the neighborhood. So, you know, it was, and he wanted to make sure you guys knew how to fish. He wanted to make sure you know how to go on a boat. I mean, there's nothing that exists in this world that he did not want to expose you to. And so by exposing that to you guys, and everybody else saw the fun, that's why everybody wanted to come here, because we always active. And I think he brought that PE youthfulness over to the household, because there was nothing for you guys to go over to the school and play on the trampoline. We had all the toys here, you know, everything that they had there. We had here ping pong tables. And so, you know, I think that was just, he's a kid at heart, and he just wanted to expose you guys. And he was reliving his life, I guess, through his children.
For sure. I mean, I can't even speak of families I know that play archery, or, I mean, you know, he would take us to go play frisbee golf. And I had never even heard of frisbee golf, you know. So I think the fact that what my mom is saying, and my mom herself, you know, too, they were just a great team. They're a great team. So I think she grabbed hold to the fact that they wanted to be, have us to be exposed, as she was saying. And, you know, going off to college, you know, I think too, that was a lot of the saving grace for myself, being the youngest one, is you telling me y'all going to such and such for spring break and you're excited. I'm like, okay, I've been there, I've done that, you know. So it wasn't like you could just come to me with anything, because I've already had this exposure. You know, I know what it's supposed to look like. I know what it's supposed to, what you're supposed to be doing. You know, I think
And
that's
we didn't do that to make you all feel like you were better than other people. We just wanted you to be exposed. When we would take you to the airport, we would teach you how to get out at the airport. What do you do when you get to the airport? When you get in, read the signs. So at some point in your life, you would know how to manipulate and work through an airport. Same thing with the cruises. You know, Tiffany, you can thank us for making you gold members, but we taught you how to do things so you could be independently if we ever were to leave.
Correct. And like I would take that too. I had to fly on a plane. I think we were going to Mexico, and I'm afraid of heights, and I did not want to fly at all. But I do remember when we were going through the airport that literally they were saying, this is where you go to get your ticket. This is how you have to make sure you have your baggage and everything turned in. So they did also make sure that it was teachable moments. And, you know, I think both of them being educators, a lot of that my dad shares often when we talk to him, and my mom too. Being in education, it just exposes you to so many things. You hear about the family dynamics, you understand the different backgrounds that different children are coming from. You're seeing the instruction. Like he shares, he was in the elementary school, and when he came home and realized these kids need to know how to tie their shoes, they need to be able to write their names and things like that, he would come home and work with us on that because he wanted us to be ready for school. Likewise, you know, which is why I'm asking, how has your upbringing contributed to you? Whereas if we didn't have the financial literacy in our home, but now you have that financial literacy, how are you helping to pass that on? Likewise, if you came from a broken home or a single parent household, but now you have a spouse or you're working together with somebody, that contributes to who you are and how you're going to help the next generation. So that's what this is about: dialogue, conversation. What can we do for the culture? Black Lives Matter. What can we do to pass on the goodness of it? Last week, we were talking about, and Priscilla was sharing how the juvenile age range is rising. Priscilla was saying that now, you know, they can be 18, yet youth are still out here committing crimes. Whereas, you know, my dad, when my cousins would come to the house, all right, we're going to go to the gym and play basketball, or we're going to go out swimming, or I'm going to teach you. My dad to this day will, you know, take one of our cousins, teach him how to work on a car. It takes everybody, you know, contributing to that, you know, and what you have. Even my aunt, you know, mentioning about my grandmother instilling hard work and work ethic. That is something I can take away from both of my parents, is our work ethic. To me, I do things with excellence. When I go to work, when I'm at home, everything I do is driven by work ethic, but I got that from them. So I want to bring about a consciousness to you all too, to think about in your home, your upbringing really has in some way contributed to who you are. And it could be good or bad. You know, if you've seen some bad and you've had some traumatic experiences, you know, kind of think about that. Anybody else would like to share, how has your upbringing contributed to who you are, either good or bad? Thank you, Mama and Daddy, for letting me put you on the spot. I talk about them in the book, and they tried to sue me, just FYI.
I would just say one thing. Hi, everybody. I came up in a single parent home, but I mean, with my grandmother, we all stayed together, but I would say a single parent home because my mom did work. She worked every day when I'm out of school. If I come home after school, she's working until the evening time. Even after her, school hours or whatever, doing stuff. So I would say I came up in a single parent home. So with that coming up, but I did have like a large family. Like I had my grandmother, and she was the house that people would come to, or I have aunts, everybody that stayed near each other. So with that coming up, it did instill like the values of family, and I work hard and, do stuff for yourself. Don't ask people for nothing type stuff. And church, of course, going to church, really, we didn't want minutes. You don't lay in the bed on Sunday morning. Can't stay, so maybe I can remember maybe one time as a child where I got sick and I had to stay home out of church. But otherwise, I went to Sunday school, make sure I went to Sunday school. So then when I did go off to college, and even now in my own home before, I did try to make sure I found a church to go to church. And I still continue to try to now with my kids. I have to do better because my kids, we haven't made it to Sunday school. However, that's one thing I do want to do better about getting them to Sunday school. But I do, make sure they go to church when we were going to church and stuff. So I did have that. That's one thing I want to make sure they continue to go to church and understand the values. And then, of course, with family. And I think coming up in a single parent home, you didn't get a lot of that, the big time shopping before school. I might, you get a little bit of stuff and, you kind of go, you don't complain about what you get. And even now, I don't complain about anything. I try to, I don't care about all the flashy stuff like everybody else. everybody back then was getting, you know, they might have, what was it, like Air Force Ones or something like that, but I might not get mine to like the end of the school year or something like that. So, so I was kind of always the late person to get stuff. And so now the bad part about that is because I don't like to spend a lot of money on things. So, and it might be something I need, but I feel like sometimes I could be, I ain't gonna say cheap or frugal. So I think about that stuff as far as with money, because I was like, well, man, I could use that for something else. But so that I think it's kind of bad and good that with that. And I think that's pretty much and the good part is like the values that came out of that. And then one thing I do want to say with your parents, they did good, because through them, Tiffany, you know, is exposing Kayla, which helps me to expose my daughter, Kaylin. So if it wasn't for, you know, meeting Tiffany and her having that exposure, you know, flying on a plane and stuff like that, my child probably would have never done till she was older. Because when coming up for me, I didn't ride a plane till I was an adult. So I was after college. So that's what I have to say about that.
That is great. Thank you for sharing that input.
Most importantly, don't forget reading those signs, learning how to navigate in the airport.
Yes. So now, let me tell you my experience with that. You know, right with I probably was texting Tiffany because I'm like, oh gosh, I'm so nervous in the airport. Like, where'd she go? I lost her. But yes, I think that might have been my third time flying in my life, third or fourth time flying in my life, just this last summer. But my daughter, that was the best thing. She really enjoys that. That was her first time. So with Tiffany, you know, every summer we look forward to a trip. You know, at the beginning, I'd be like, okay, we just go to the beach, and, you know, something simple, because that was like big time to me, just going to the beach. But she was like, we need to do something more, for, you know, cruise or fly. I'm like, you serious? You know, but then I said, all that money? I was like,
oh, because let the record know you are frugal.
I'm doing better, because my husband gets on me all the time too, because I'm like, well, they got shoes, those shoes are fine. Or, you know, I try to not buy it. I use stuff until it's can't be used no more before I go buy something else.
Ain't nothing wrong with it. Ain't nothing wrong with that, Ashley. There is nothing wrong with that. As long as it's going, the portion that you're not spending is going towards good use, you know. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I will say too, I'm gonna share this, that my dad sometimes, and it'll be something trivial. Y'all be like, Siobhan, say what? But I can remember two occurrences. This is part of that exposure. For instance, my dad was working with the school for the blind. He would do like a camp with these students who wrestled. And he had me out there wrestling a young girl who was blind and like was teaching her wrestling moves. But that was exposure. You know, I mean, I would never have thought, you know, a blind student wrestling, you know what I'm saying? So those are the types of things I'm saying. But then too, and Tiffany's probably gonna jump in now, there were times when I didn't want to experience some things. And my dad is like, you need to try it at least one time. Or he like, you need to try it at least one time, you know? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Hell no. And that could have been something simple as far as getting on a roller coaster. I mean, I'd be crying like, oh no, it's too high. I don't want to get on it. Come on. And then Tiffany would be in cahoots with him and be like, Siobhan, it ain't bad. Come on, get on this roller coaster ride. And I'm like, okay, well, Tiffany said it wasn't bad, being the old naive young one, and then get up there and just be screaming and hollering. But then I could say, okay, I've been on this roller coaster. So I can just say, you know, your upbringing definitely contributes. All right, good people. Anybody else want to share?
I just want to say, Uncle Nate, thanks for being a great dad to all of us.
I have enjoyed it, and I look forward to doing bigger and greater things with everyone.
I echo that sentiment, as I was a village child. I was at everyone's house because my mom was a single parent. So I stayed with Grandma, Aunt Frida, Aunt Alice, Aunt Joanne, Uncle Nate, and Aunt Annette, and whomever else within our family, because my mom was a single parent. So I was a village child, just like we have village children now, David. So we appreciate you guys taking the time to step in, fill in those roles, that might not have been absent, such as absentee fathers. We do appreciate it, and we couldn't have become the people that we are without you filling the void. So we
Yeah, we
thank you.
appreciate it.
But you know what's amazing? None of us had fathers. I mean, we all have fathers, but none of us were raised with fathers. Even Nathaniel, he was 5 when his dad died. And that's, you know, sometimes Nathaniel tell me, you're missing that aspect in your life of having a man in the home. Go figure.
But that's why we appreciate y'all, so you and Uncle Phil and Uncle Percy being such great dads. You know, even I had a father, but I still look to you all as our fathers and our mothers. You know, you, Uncle Nate, Aunt Thelma, Uncle Percy, Uncle Phil, Aunt Thelma. I mean, not Aunt Thelma. Sorry, I said that again. But Aunt Joanne and all of you all stepped in. A lot of times, y'all just didn't know what you all meant to us at certain times. So we appreciate that. You know, you have to appreciate those ones who were not there. I wasn't raised by my real father. I met my real father one time. He looked at me, he said, and kept it moving. So, you know, you all reaching out, touching us by doing little things here, little things there, big things here, big things there, helping with our kids. That means a lot to us. And I just want to make sure that you all knew that I appreciate it. Even Tony telling stories about how Aunt Thelma was like his mom, his second mom. Aunt Annette was like, that was his aunt. That was one of his other favorite aunts. This, that, these, and the other. You know, it was just little stories, and that makes us feel more in tune with you and wanting us to do better for our families. So my hat's off to all of you all. I appreciate all of you.
Daddy, Mama, y'all have done a great job. And really, although it may not have been spoken as I can't even express it, but the book was really dedicated to my parents. I dedicate that to my grandparents as well, but my parents, and not that we've had perfect parents, not that we are perfect kids. Please understand what I'm saying. I'm saying this as humble as I can, but I appreciate my upbringing. That is what I'm trying to share. And because I've had such a great exposure, because I've had such a great upbringing, I'm like, I gotta tell people, this is family. This is what family is like. Danielle, we call each other Sakazo. I've grown up with my cousins as sisters. I have Taven, I call him my brother. You know, we've grown up very close, and we just learned to look out for each other.
But I think sometimes you guys really have that that spirit of helping other people really down pat, because you all went to school, and if nobody could help them, you would say, my parents can help you. And we would come to pick y'all up, and y'all would have kids lined up for us to take home. I mean, even to this day, you helping everybody. So I think you really took that part from us and from your grandmother, and you have really excelled. And sometimes it may to the extreme, but you have that helping spirit.
What were you gonna say, Ashley?
Mine might have been getting off a topic. It was getting off a topic because I was gonna ask your parents a question, because your mom, you brought to light that you said that you guys grew up, but neither of you had fathers in your home. So when going into your marriage and you know, what was like your model to go by, or was it like a trial and error type thing, or I don't know. You get what I'm trying to ask? Like, what was your model to go by when you were like, you being a father and mother, and then getting into a marriage where you really didn't grow up with that in your home?
Good
Well,
question.
me personally, I've always wanted my kids and my nieces and nephews to experience a father figure. I've always wanted to be a father figure and have good experiences with my kids and give them things that I didn't get as a kid. So I've just kind of relived my childhood through my kids. I want them to have fun, to go out and experience things and try things, and I wanted to be a part of that. After coaching a lot of kids at school from elementary school through high school, I know the importance and the importance of being involved with kids. For PTA meetings, teacher meetings, when they're in plays and programs, and I was there. We were there, and I like to. As a parent, you want to be there for your kids. So you can look back on this and say, hey, you can't say 5 years, 10 years later that, wow, I wish I could have been there. You got to be there. And then you can look back and have no regrets. We don't do everything right, but we try to put forth our best foot forward and try to be a good example. Pray for.
That's good.
I don't think I looked at a father figure. I didn't have one, so I just moved forward. Just want this best for your children, and you, as an educator, you saw what kids didn't have, and you just tried to fill that void. So I don't think it was so much as because, like you say, we don't even have that many male in our families, just a lot of females, and so I didn't look at a father figure or so forth and so on. It was just doing what's right, trying to bring your children up what's right, especially with the Lord on your side, and He leading and guiding you. Anytime you're going on the Lord's side, He's gonna lead you and guide you into all truth.
Thank y'all. That's some good advice. Being a young married mother.
So Ashley, with you posing that question, and this is going to be a transparent moment, how are you, or how did you and Bobby, I guess, figure out, I don't know if he grew up with two parents in his home, but you growing up, he did. Okay, so how did you, your mindset wise, adjust yourself to say, this is what I would love for our family to look like? How did that happen?
It's so funny you ask that, because we had a conversation, the other week. But my idea, early in our marriage, my idea of marriage is what I saw for TV, whatever movie, the mom should be home cooking, cleaning, daddy work, come home, do everything else. Craziness. However, anyway, we've learned, we're going in our seventh year marriage. It's better now. The first couple years were rough, because I had to get my motto of what a marriage should be. But it's not a I do everything in the house and he do everything outside. We kind of do everything split. So he may be washing dishes, or I may be washing dishes, or we kind of split everything. And then me coming from a single parent home in the beginning, I don't mind. I would do everything. I go lift, do all that stuff. So it was kind of hard. But adjusting to, okay, let me let him sit back and kind of let him be the man of the house. So I always want to jump in and make the ultimate decision. But now I'm learning, he has to I need to give him the opportunity to be the man of the house. So I see that now, in these later part of years of our marriage than the early ones. I'm sitting there thinking like, Lord, what was I thinking? But I think it was just maybe with the single parent home and me and just I want to jump in and go ahead and do it. I don't want to have to ask nobody or wait or nothing. I just want to go do it, because I don't know, he may not know, but I didn't ask him if he thought about it, stuff like that.
And too, I think that's a good point. And I'm glad that we had this for the dialogue. If you think about when I asked that question, how has your upbringing contributed? And so sometimes unconsciously, it could be that what I saw my mom doing, such as even you saying that I don't spend money, it is just a habit, becomes who you are, a part of who you are. And so it is an adjustment. Even coming from my household and then my husband's household too, I mean, we both came to the consensus that our parents' marriage is their marriage. You have to figure out what works for you, so partnership. That's the whole premise.
That's right. Partnership.
Partnership.
That's correct. And that's how my husband growing up, in his mom and his dad both worked. So he just knew they both worked. So it wasn't like you do this and I do that.
Love it. Okay, y'all, it's 8:04, and I can tell that y'all enjoyed tonight's session because it went longer tonight than last week. Okay, thank you all so much for